And America is, and I agree with what you said, too, America does not teach financial intelligence. And America is a pie. It's a capitalistic system that presents itself as a pie. And what you have to determine is what you need to do to get your slice and how large of that slice you want, commensurate with your time and abilities. Does that make sense?
Well said. Well said. But I was going to ask you a question, sir.
Proceed.
Are you familiar with schooling?
Am I familiar with schooling?
With unschooling. It's a movement. It's a lot of parents across the nation who've decided to completely remove their children from public schools and just pretty much let the children self-direct their education. Which is one point that I bring up a lot in my show is a lot of these kids usually end up growing up to be very successful, and they start businesses at very young ages. Usually a lot of them own businesses in their teenage years because they're constantly being educated. Because, see, the thing about it is, which is one thing that I want to get at in my show, is that the problem is that by everybody being forced to go through school for education, and studies have also shown that schooling, the method they use to teach us in schools, do not work for the majority of people. There's a large percentage of the population that does not respond well to those methods. And those methods were developed 1800s, where you have 30 kids in the classroom and one teacher. That's very old schooling. The schools have not evolved at all. And now we're at a point where you have a lot of children who need more interactive ways of learning, who need to actually be doing something to be making a difference as they learn. But now you have them sit in classrooms for 12 years to the point where their only association that they have to education is schooling. So most of them, when they do drop out of school, and like I was telling you earlier, I'm not telling anyone to drop if you're doing good in school. But the stats do show that 8,300 students drop out a day. So something is not working for them. So maybe there are alternatives instead of everyone focusing on, well, you have to go this route. You have to do it this way. And internally, I'm sure those students know that it's not that simple for them to just do it that way, which is why they dropped out in the first place, no matter what the reason may be. What I'm trying to say is that instead of everybody telling them to keep doing the same thing that they know doesn't work for them, because statistically that's not really working. I mean, yes, the rate of dropouts is going down, but 8,300 people every day now is a very large number. And those people, what I'm trying to bring to light is that they could use unschooling. There's other techniques that they could educate themselves and find other things. And most people do end up going back and getting a GED, like my brother. My brother dropped out of high school because he was, he just didn't like it, was having a lot of problems in school. But on his own time, he ended up studying and getting his GED, which is the exact same equivalent. May
I stop you there? May I stop you there?
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're not the same. Be very careful about that. A person with a GED, is not considered the same as a person with a high school diploma. And the difference is when employers look at a person with a GED, I don't disagree with a lot of what you said, okay, but there are some specific issues that I think deserve addressing. A person with a GED is considered more of a problem in the eyes of employers. Now, some employers will give them a chance, but fewer will, because what they say is, you messed up. You quit the system. And I agree, the educational process needs some attenuation. It needs to be tuned better. But, a lot of that has to do with parenting also. It's not just the school, because a mediocre teacher and a very motivated parent equals a well-educated product, a well-educated offspring. But a person with a GED is considered by employers as being more of a problem. Why? Because they quit the process. They didn't complete the process. And by the way, from a sociological perspective and a legal perspective, the only job that a child has, or what we call a minor, is to attend school. That's their job from, the age that they enter elementary school and complete what we call high school. And so if a person doesn't complete high school, in their prescribed time, they are considered more of a discipline problem. That's the way employers look at that particular individual. Why did they drop out of? Excuse me?
Oh, no, I said I understand that, certainly.
Yeah, so they're not the same. They're not the same at all. If I were in a position of employment,
I would say this though: most jobs that you could get high school diploma or a GED in that category are not highly skilled jobs. Which is why, for instance, in my personal experience, I've had at least 10 jobs with different companies, and the thing about it is, even though they graduate from high school, I do have a diploma, but I've never been to show my diploma. I've never been asked for evidence of my diploma by employers.
Well, because probably
skill,
experience can be substituted for education in many times. But what one must understand, in a competitive society where you may have a plethora of people applying for the same, position, there has to be an elimination process. And that process is usually based upon education. And what employers, unless it's a highly technical job, they consider one's education something that is malleable. In other words, if you have basic education, they can train you to whatever the company's standards are. But make no mistake about it, people without an education, see, the education or the educational system, there is an assembly line thought process here. And that is, if you do what society has prescribed, finish high school, keep yourself out of trouble, you finish college, and this sort of thing, you are more employable. Now, that's not the only way, but that is the way that most people will pursue life. And now, a lot of the jobs have moved offshore, and we're in the technological age now. So I think it is very incumbent upon people to see what the market is about. I study the market all the time. Healthcare is really booming, and it will be. Something like 20,000 baby boomers are reaching retirement age every day. They're not retiring because a lot of them can't retire, but they are reaching retirement age. And so healthcare, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I agree with a lot of what you just said. I agree with almost most of what you just said. I have one more question for you, though, which was, when you brought up the fact earlier that somebody with a GED or somebody who drops out of school and another route, most employers consider them to just be, and I posted on the forum about this, and I was getting a lot of feedback from people telling me that, well, as a dropout, you're considered to be just a quitter or somebody who doesn't finish what you start.
And a discipline problem.
And sure, which is the general perception. But here's how I view it. Well, here's my flip side of, I always like to look at the flip side of things. There's one general perception, but is there an alternative view that may shed some clarity on the situation, which is this in this case. Imagine if you're going to school every day. Now, most people who drop out of school, they've been in school for at least about 10 years or so. Most people who drop out, they drop out during high school, or something like that. So they've experienced school for a long enough time to know what school is like and what to expect from school. Now, if you're in a situation where you realize, okay, I see how this process is going, and I already know what you're preparing me for. You're preparing me to graduate from this school, go and get a job where I'm going to have to work in the same environment, in the same type of setting, pretty much go work in an office, which is the adult version of schools, the 9-to-5 life. Now, a lot of people are content with that. A lot of people have no problem with that. But I'm just saying, imagine if you're a teenager who realizes that to you personally, it's a hard thing for you to accept. Like, you can't just live that way. You have to do something else. You're more hand or whatever. Where you know that if you keep investing time into this school education, even though you do get the degree and graduate later, even if you grit your teeth and through it and get your degree, you know that when you get a job, you're still not going to be happy. You're not going to be fulfilled. Why would you stay in that system and keep investing your time? It's kind of like being in a relationship with a woman, and you know that you're not really in love with this woman. You know that maybe she's a good woman, she does everything you need, but you're not really in love with her. So,
well, that's a whole nother subject, but let me address that. I can address that to you. You're making a huge presumption here, and you're making a presumption that may be, for the most part, unwarranted, and it is simply this. You are putting the burden or responsibility on a person that's approximately, 16, 17 years old, for forecasting the rest of their lives. In other words, what their life will entail. Now, look, the beautiful thing about life is a lot of it is remedial. We can make up for it. However, it can be more difficult. So that's what I have formed a picture of you actually expressing, is that at 15, 16 years old, by this person who drops out, which they shouldn't drop out. That's against the law. And I guarantee you that would be against the will of most of their parents. Now, in an extreme case, and I've read a little bit about history here and there, people do have an idea of what they're doing at that age. But that is rare. That is very rare. What do they tell us? Young people's brains aren't even formed fully until they get around, their early 20s, somewhere along in there. And so for a person to, at 16, 17, to make that kind of projection is, as I say, at most dubious. What do you think?
Well, but they also make a projection by following the traditional school route, because you have to remember, going to school is investing a lot of time, energy, and you're also going into debt for the most part.
No, wait. Let's not create
an way you go.
Okay, wait a minute. Before you go on, though, so we're on the same page. We were talking about high school. We weren't talking about college
Oh, okay.
yet.
Okay, sorry. Okay, you're right. That is.
Yeah, you were talking about dropping out of high school, and I'm just saying, first of all, that's illegal, because your obligation, up until the age of 18, or that you complete high school, which is 12th grade, you are obligated as a minor to complete high school. There are truancy laws and all such.
So how is it then that so many kids drop out? We have like 3 million dropouts every year. How did that happen if it's illegal? Do they all get arrested? Do they go to jail?
Well, look, just because something is illegal, we know that people can still do it. But the point is that generally revolves back to what we cited earlier, which is poor parenting. Because most parents, if you would ask most parents, and most parents want their children, most sane parents, let's make that clarification, want their children to do.
I wouldn't say, well, most want their children to do good, but I wouldn't say it's only sane parents who send their kids to school, because you have a lot of sane parents who go a different route.
Well, no. Let's stay. What I'm talking about is high school. Okay, most sane, mature parents, would want their children to finish high school. Let's just be candid about that. And if it doesn't happen, now you just ask a question, why do so, and I don't have the exact figure, but I do know it can be high, and I think it's being reduced, but most parents would want their children to finish at minimum high school. Now, why they don't, it would be a breakdown in parenting or the environment, the social safety net, as it were, because remember, go ahead.
Hey, sir, I'm enjoying this conversation, but this is about all the time I have left in this show. The show is about to go off in 30 minutes. I hope you could join me tomorrow, though, and we could continue this conversation. I broadcast this show every day. And,
okay, good conversation, and it's a worthy conversation. So thank you, yes, and have a good day.
Yes. All right, you too, sir. Thank you very much. All right. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for tuning in to the show. It's been Self-Education Radio with your host, Mr. Prince Avery. Thanks for joining us.